Hi, my name's Greg. I wrote an article on my website called Growing Avocados in Southern California, and I wanted to make a video here to complement that article and just show some things that I've found to be helpful in being successful in growing avocados, specifically in Southern California. So this is my yard, and I'm going to show you a couple trees and how I grow them. It's not the only way, but I've found it to be the best way for me. This is a couple of trees actually. The skinny one on the right is a surprise. The fatter one on the left is a Hass. They're both about 15 feet tall, and I keep them pruned to that height. By far the most important thing about growing avocados here is irrigation. So let me show you how I water these trees and all the rest of my trees. Inside the house, that's a micro sprinkler. And that's how I water all my trees. Let me turn it on so you can see what it looks like when it's working. There it's going now, and as you can see, it just kind of rains down all underneath the canopy as it spins around. And that little board next to it just prevents the water from hitting the trunk, which is not necessary if you have sandy soil, but it's never a bad thing because water up against the trunk can cause crown rot, especially in heavy soils. So on the other hand, for small trees, new trees, instead of a micro sprinkler, you can switch them out to little spitters where they just put out a small diameter sprinkle like this. And that's better than the spinners, because the spinners, in order to work, need to go much farther out, like 4 or 5 feet. While I'm here, this is a little Helen avocado tree, and let me talk about just staking for a second. You put 2 stakes on either side of the trunk and just tie them so that the trunk can wiggle a little bit in the wind but never fall over. So close to this little Helen, I have a couple of other trees. That's a lamb right there, and this here is a reed. This reed is maybe 12 feet tall. And I just wanted to show you what you can get off a 12-foot tall tree. You don't need a giant tree to get plenty of fruit, especially with certain kinds of avocados. This reed tree has, I don't know if you can see, but tons of fruit. I don't know, around 100 on a 12-foot tall tree. There's lots in here. And not only do you not need a big tree to get a good amount of avocados, but you don't need more than one. Like with a reed, it can be alone, a single tree in your yard, and get plenty of fruit. Even though I do have this lamb next to it, a lamb will also a lamb is an A-type and a reed is also an A-type, so they're not going to do much cross-pollination work. And this lamb, by the way, will also produce plenty of fruit on its own as a lone tree. But while we're here, the mulch is important. Let me show you the mulch. There's really no point in ever raking away any of the leaf debris under a tree. And beyond that, it's super helpful for avocados to have extra wood chips or something like that added, because the roots really appreciate keeping cool. And if you take the wood chips away, you'll find that there are worms in there, and you'll also find some root tips of the avocado roots kind of poking up into the surface there. And that really only happens if you've got a nice cover. So because the root tips want it to be somewhat cool, and they also want it to be constantly somewhat moist, not wet but moist, and that comes with having a nice deep wood chip layer or some other kind of mulch layer under the tree. Of course, as those wood chips break down and as the worms and such do their work, you get a really nice dark, deep, rich soil at the top that the roots can feed off of. I've never fertilized any of my trees other than just spreading a deep mulch under them all the time, and I get plenty of healthy fruit off of them.